Well, today we have John Hansen back, the brand new winner of the NPC 60 plus holiday classic. Who's the guy that runs that show, John?
Mel Chansey, old
That's
friend
right.
of mine from Chicago.
That's right. The Mel Chansey Classic 60 plus winner, John Hansen. That's just the latest of all the accolades because I have a few, but we want to do the video. Otherwise, I'll take the whole time just throwing you praise. So we have to get into other things. But this whole thing about training over 60 is a whole different ball game, John, as opposed to training when you're 35. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
What did you find that we'll go through the details because I'm really into these things because
Okay.
frankly, it changes because your body changes.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and I also heard you say elsewhere that in the big about 4 weeks out, maybe 4 or 5 weeks out, you said, "Okay, I think I'll do that show." You weren't intending on doing this show.
Yeah, I just started my diet over the summer and I was going to get in shape for some videos for my business, my online training business. Because I wanted to start shooting some videos. So I figured out it's going to look better if I'm in better shape. So I started dieting. I haven't really been lean in about 3 years, I think. The last time was 2021. So the diet was going good. I was eating around 2,300 calories a day, I think, and just training normally, maybe doing a little bit of cardio, but not too much. And the amount of calories I was eating, the 2,300, was good enough where I was consistently losing fat week by week because I was measuring my waist and taking my weight every week. And that went good until I got to about, I think I started off pretty fat. I had a 36.5 inch waist. 33 is what I would need to be in contest shape to be really lean. And so I was about 3.5 inches off. And when I got down to around, I think, a 34-inch waist, that's when I hit a sticking point. And I was stuck for over a month, for like
Wow.
5 weeks. And I just would not, my body wouldn't respond. So I tried a couple different things. I started doing more cardio. That really didn't make much of an impact. I lowered my calories. That really didn't make much of an impact. And then when I did carb cycling, that finally started to work. So I went like 3 days low carbs and then one day high carbs. And doing that cycle finally broke the sticking point. And then I got down to 33 and a half, and I was really close. I was really looking good, but there was just that little bit left on the lower abs. And one of my
Yeah.
friends at the gym, he saw me pose. I hit a couple poses, and he's like, "That's just age, that's just your skin is loose because of age." And I'm like, "No, no, I think I could still push it a little more." And then my friend Paul Revelia helped me out. He is the owner of Pro Physique, and I work for Paul. I do online coaching with his team. And he said to do carb cycling again, but push it harder.
Mm.
So he said go 5 days in a row of 150 carbs, which was really
Wow.
low. Because before, my low day was like 200. Now he's
Yeah.
saying go down to 150. And he said do cardio twice a day, which I had never
That
done
sounds a
before.
little old school, like they like to say. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what guys used to do.
And then he said after 5 days of that, then go up to 250 for 2 days. I'm like, okay, that'll be different. I mean, I was doing 3 days low, one day high, 3 days low, one day high. He said go low 5 days and then go high 2 days.
Mm.
So that worked. The first day I went, after doing that long 5 days of depletion, once I went to the first high day, my waist went down. So that started working. So then I did get down to 33, but I was still, this was like around Thanksgiving. And then Paul also suggested, he's like, why don't you compete again? You're in shape. There's one more show to go. There's one more show in December, Mel Chancey's show. So he goes, why don't you do it? So I was like, no, I'm not competing anymore. I haven't competed in 8 years. And
Yeah.
then I started thinking about it. He put the idea in my head and I started thinking
Sure.
about it. And I was like, yeah, why not? It'll be fun. It's close. It's in Florida. I can drive there. Um, my friends from the gym will all come and support me, so it'll be a good time. So then I decided to do it. So then I had still had another month to go, but I was already in shape. So then Paul also helped me with that as well because he helped me the last 2 weeks and we kind of did a peak week. First, we did a mock peak week where
Mm.
we're just trying it. And then we did the actual peak week, which was the week of the show. And that worked out perfect. And that went great. And then, yeah, I really had a good time and I was in fantastic shape.
That little thing that many people are identifying with right now, John. They're saying, "Yeah, I got that thing too." And you say to yourself, I'm 60 now, that I'm going to have to live with this thing. But
Yeah.
you made me very happy when you said eventually, if you did it right and you did do it right, it falls off. Isn't that
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. 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 I talked to the head judge who was Steve Weinberger. Steve is the head judge of the Olympia. So Steve's a friend of Mel, so he was there and he was the head judge. So I got to talk to him, which was an honor being judged by someone of such high status. And one of the things he said was, he said, your skin is really tight for over 60. And I guess if he judges master shows, he sees a lot of guys over 50, over 60 with loose skin. So he said that was an advantage for me, was that the skin was tight. So
I,
yeah,
I saw your competitors, and I hate to tell you, you blew them away. I mean, there was no, I don't have to be a professional or a seasoned judge to say this guy's the best guy on stage. The
hmm
thing that defines you is the rib cage. I mean, you've been told. I mean, the fullness up top, and this is a question I want to ask you. When you were young, when that rib cage is pliable and able to actually expand, did you do a lot of the traditional pullovers to get
Yeah.
that? You
Yeah,
did.
I mean, I think everybody was back then when I started training. I mean, that was like normal to do that exercise. It was a chest exercise.
Yes, it
Uh,
was. It was cross
I,
bench. You the cross
yeah,
bench.
yeah. I actually still do it, Ralph. I still do it at the end of my chest workout. I just do like 2 or 3 sets, but yeah, I still do it.
Well, you know better than I know. Now, do you at this age, if I do these pullovers or anybody watching at 60 or 50, is it even worth it anymore? I don't I when I was 19, 20, 21, I did not do that and I regret it now. Can we expand the rib cage even now?
Well, they say you can't because they say you could at that age because
Yeah,
I guess your ligaments are more pliable then, so
they're
it
still
can
growing.
expand then. And I think they even say the same thing about your shoulder width. If you do like wide grip chins and stuff when you're younger, it can expand your shoulders. So I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say. But I still do it now because I just think it's a good finishing off exercise. Frank Zane used to like doing because he said he would do chest and triceps together, which is what I do. And he said when you did that at the end of his chest workout, that whole movement kind of warms up your triceps because your arms are bent and you're pulling it over like that and kind of warms up your elbows a little bit. So that's why I do it too. And plus, it gets a little bit of your upper inner chest, which is a hard area to hit. But, with your hands close like that and you're pulling it over, right, and you're kind of flexing it on the top, it does get that upper inner chest. So it's a
And the
good.
man lifts his massive arms as he just shows us exactly what won him this contest. And it's funny. You got to live and breathe the whole thing. You have to, you're very meticulous. You keep track of every single thing you put in your body. Has this been the way you've always been?
Yeah, pretty much, especially I think, from my 30s on, like when I was doing all those natural bodybuilding shows in my 30s, I was really tracking everything because you had to be really meticulous with the natural bodybuilding because that's really tough to hold on to muscle and then keep that muscle while you're dieting, without any help, any performance enhancing drugs. So, I really made sure I was really meticulous with that. And I kept records of every contest I did. And I, looked at them and said, what works, what doesn't work. Because that whole peaking process too, that's a whole other thing. I mean, it's one thing just to lose the fat and maintain the muscle, and then you got to try to hit that peak at the end too, and that's hard to do as well. Because I was always a big believer when I was competing in the natural bodybuilding shows of bulking up and putting on size because I had a fast metabolism. So I would bulk up, eat like 4,000 calories in the off season when I was younger, like that, when in my 30s and 20s. And then I would come down slowly for the contest. So I would diet sometimes 16 weeks just to get ready for the show and slowly lose the body fat. But for me, it was always important to hold on to the muscle while I'm losing the fat, not just get ripped at any cost and lose the muscle, but hold on to that muscle while I'm losing the body fat. And that's what I try to tell any clients I'm working with now. These guys, sometimes I'll get guys over 40, over 50 who are really overweight, haven't worked out in a while. And they're like, well, I don't really want to get put on muscle. I just want to lose the fat. And I'm like, yeah, but you want to maintain that muscle while you're losing the fat. That's so important. It's the muscle is so valuable. You really have to maintain that. So, and even build it if you can while you're losing the fat. So that's why I took all those records, because you got to find out what works and what doesn't, you know.
And you won the natural Mr. Olympia how many times?
I just won the first one in '98, but I won the universe 3 times.
That's right. Universe 3, natural Mr. Olympia, which I didn't mention in the beginning, and just dedication, 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 and a joy, an enjoyment of the sport.
Yeah.
You gotta love what you're doing. I know, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that hits you, John? Okay, chest and tries day. I gotta get do I have the breakfast that I need? Is everything prepared? I mean, this is the lifestyle, yes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I have a, the way I design my workouts too now is I have a program, like a cycling program that lasts 6 weeks. So I know exactly like what weights I'm going for and how many reps I want to do with each weight for each exercise. And that kind of gets me excited, especially like leg days. If I'm going to be squatting heavier than I was before, I got to get pumped up for that. So I'm kind of excited hours before I go to the gym.
And have the workouts gotten a little bit more brief, or are they as long as at one time? Because I know they could be tedious at one time. Have you shortened them up?
They're not really brief. I would say my workouts are probably an hour and a half long. I don't rush the workout. I don't try to go like really fast because I try to make it anaerobic, where I'm just training the muscles and I'm trying to build muscle tissue. And then, I get rid of the fat through the diet and through the cardio. I did do more cardio this year probably than I ever did before. Um, so I think that helps. That helps the diet. It's not everything because, like I said, when I hit that sticking point, I tried just increasing the cardio and keeping the calories the same. It didn't make any difference. So I think the diet and the calorie amount is the most important thing, but I think the cardio does help a lot.
What kind of cardio?
I usually just do the treadmill, like walking on a treadmill with an incline, or I'll walk outside if the weather permits.
It's always walking. You don't
Yeah,
run.
it's always walking. Yeah, I don't do the I don't do the Stairmaster because I think it's too much stress on the thighs. And that's kind of like probably my weakest body part is my legs. So I don't want to do anything that's gonna overstress the thighs and like, overtrain them so they're gonna lose muscle. Because like I said, when you're dieting, you always want to make sure that you hold on to as much muscle as possible. And that's always the fight you're having is you're trying to get ripped, you got to lower your calories, but at the same time, you got to try to hold on to that muscle tissue. So that's the balance you're always trying to find.
Your legs look fabulous. Even full in the back, beautiful. And I saw some shots when you were 20 in 1986, maybe you were 23, something like that. And
Yeah, yeah,
your legs were phenomenal for a guy. Now you were training at 14. So
yeah,
am I right on that? 14 you started?
yeah. I started at 14, right?
So at 23, where I saw these fabulous pictures, you got to go back there, folks, and check out John Hansen circa 1986. You're going to be, not that he's not a dynamo right now, but back then, you got a different guy at 20. You can compare the two and see just how he maintained this unbelievable physique throughout, 40 some odd years. Your legs, which I never had because I have little Romeo legs. My father had little legs. I have to work on those legs. The legs were phenomenal, and you were able to keep up your legs to this day, and that is the hardest thing to do as you age. Am I right?
Yeah, usually the legs go first. You're right, Ralph. And I was surprised they looked as good as they did on stage because I thought when I was training for the show, I go, oh man, I hope they're not too skinny up there. But they didn't look skinny. I was training them really heavy and really hard, but I thought they looked kind of thin in the gym, but they didn't look too bad from the pictures I saw when I was on stage.
And you had the side chest, and even and as the quads they were flaring from the side. I saw the hamstrings, which are very difficult to
Hmm.
have accentuated, and your calves were good. And your waist, again, we have to talk about the waist because again, you're talking about inches and you have the tape measure. I never,
Yeah.
that's one way to measure. I guess that's really the tried and true way to do it. When you turned and you know how to pose, of course, when you turned and you turned in a side position,
Hmm.
kind of, It was just a beautiful, beautiful shot. And
Thank you.
I'm gonna show folks that shot after this because I can't show it while we're talking, but you'll be able to actually the folks will be able to see that. The radio folks won't be able to see that, but when you see this on YouTube, you'll be able to see that. But it just happens to be the most difficult thing to do to stay close the whole entire year and then just walk into a show some 4 weeks out. It's only
Mhm.
because you maintained yourself throughout. You didn't let yourself go to hell throughout the year. You always were very close.
Well, like I said, I was a little bit overweight, a little fat in the summer, but then I just came down. But it was a long, I mean, that's 6 months of dieting, so that's a long dieting process. And I really was ready by November. So it was just then a matter of maintaining it for that last month, which was good because, I think this just helps the skin get a little tighter, and I think everything just gets a little better the longer you do it. Even if you think you're ready, I mean, another 4 weeks always helps.
Yeah. And how was the posing this time around? How did you feel about your posing routine?
Yeah, that was a little difficult at first, when I started practicing because I mean I hadn't posed in 8 years. So, you're doing those twisting poses, those three-quarter backs, and it was like killing my waist to turn my body like that.
Oh yeah.
First I thought it was like at first I thought it was my shoulders. I thought I didn't have the shoulder mobility to pull the arm all the way back, but it was really more the waist. But the more I practiced it, I finally got it, and then I had to put it to music, and just then figure out like you always do, like which poses look the best, and then I just stuck with those poses. And I think they only give you like 60 seconds of pose now anyway, so it really wasn't too long. But yeah, I thought it turned out really good. For the first time back in 8 years, so I thought I did pretty good with
And
that.
you had a coach hovering over you, and you kind of let yourself, be led by the coach a little more than usual.
Yeah, Paul really helped me for that last 2 weeks, and I'm glad I had somebody there because I didn't really know what to do to peak for the show because I was already there. I was just going like, "Okay, I guess I'll just go up for a couple days with calories and I'll go down." I mean, I really didn't know what to do because I was already in shape. And so the way he did it was interesting. He did a thing called linear loading. So I remember back in the day we used to do the carb depletion, carb loading. I'm sure you remember that too, bro.
Yeah, sure.
That was back in the 80s. So you would like deplete for 3 days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, you would carve up and then cross your fingers and hope that everything worked out by Saturday. So what Paul does is, and he says this only works if you're already in shape, like I was. He really depleted me the weekend before, the Saturday and Sunday before the contest. So we went down to like 120 grams of carbs,
Hmm.
90 minutes of cardio. So I was already lean and I pushed it even farther. And then starting on Monday, he slowly went up with the carbs. So I think we did 150, 195, 235, 275. And then on the day before the show, I actually went up to like 350. So you're slowly bringing the carbs back
Mhm.
instead of going low for 3 days and then high for 2 days. This is going gradually going up for 5 days. And that worked out great. I just got tighter and more vascular and fuller as the week went on. And I didn't have to reduce my water. I didn't have to worry about sodium, none of that, because I was already so lean that anything I was taking in as far as the carbs, all that water was going into the muscles. But I think you got to be in shape. Like if you got a little bit of fat on you, I don't think that would have worked. But because I was so lean and then we pushed that depletion so much the weekend before, it really worked going in the last 5 days.
Hey, when he said 5 days, did you say, "Oh, come on," or did you said, "Okay, let's do it"? Did you give yourself over to his way of
Oh
thinking?
yeah. Well, what we did a smart thing the week before that, the not the week of the show, but the week before that, we did a mock peak week. So we tried it.
Right.
So we did same thing, the depletion on the weekend, and then we went up on the carbs. But on the mock peak week, he brought me up on carbs a little bit more. Like and we started at like 200, 250, 300, 3, so he brought in the carbs higher. And then he could see by the end of the week, I was starting to lose my peak a little bit. I was starting to hold a little water. So then when he did it for real, the week of the show, he brought it in much more gradually. And then that worked better. And he even
And
said that if I would have did another show the week after, he thinks I could have been even better for that.
Isn't it something how sometimes you don't quite peak? And I know you did this time, but you don't quite peak when you want to
Oh
peak.
yeah.
You look at yourself in the mirror 2 days afterwards. You said, "Why can't
Hmm.
today be the
Yeah.
be the
That
contest?"
happens all the time. Yeah. It's
The
happened.
body is so unpredictable. You never know what it's going to do. You can't really get it down to an exact science, no matter how hard you try. I found that to be true.
Yeah.
How much sleep you getting with all the cardio and all the working? Hour and a half, then 90 minutes cardio. I mean, is that the way a normal day went? 90 minutes cardio and the hour and a half in the gym?
Yeah. The 90 minutes of cardio was only that weekend before. It wasn't
Right,
normal.
right, right.
Normally it was probably like 30 minutes of cardio.
You're sleeping a lot of hours.
It was okay, probably maybe 7 hours. I wasn't sleeping a lot. And then, you start, the weekend, the night before, I didn't sleep at all because I was so nervous of the show. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. I wasn't like staying up, and then we have a little bit of colder weather now here in Florida, so it's always easier to sleep when it's colder, right?
Did you get? Yeah, that's true. Did you get any natural sun, or was it all the fake stuff?
No, I didn't get any natural sun because by December, I think we didn't have any sun out here. So,
I guess not.
yeah,
I'm thinking Florida, you walk out there in Christmas time and get a tan.
right. Sometimes, some years it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not yeah, it is sometimes, not always the case, but and in the gym, it's interesting how you go about your business because many people make it a cardio thing as well as an anabolic thing, but you're
Mhm.
training for different reasons, of course. So you don't worry about anything else but putting as much muscle tissue as you possibly can in the gym, which means maybe 3 minutes between sets.
Yeah, I never really time it, but I would say yeah, especially like if you're doing something heavy like squats, even like dumbbell stiff-legged deadlifts. I was using like I think the 120s or the 130s like the week before the show, so I was still going heavy. Bent over rows, T-bar rows with, 5 plates. So yeah, when you're using heavy stuff like that, you just take as much rest as you need because you want to be sure that when you get back to the next set, that you're fully recovered and you can give it 100%. You don't want to give it like 50% because you're rushing it, There's no sense in rushing it. You're not going to get more cut by going faster. I mean, you might keep your heart rate up a little bit faster, but I think the more effective way to do it is just to diet harder and then just throw in the cardio if you need to get any kind of aerobic activity.
Why do you think it's obvious in the outcome? And when I see the pictures, why do you think you're able to maintain the mass you can while another 60-year-old guy just can't do it anymore? What is it genetics? What's your father look like? I'm curious. I saw him briefly in a video, but I couldn't really tell. Do you have the genetics of your father, your mother? I'm sure
Yeah,
you
I think
do. Of
more
course you
my
do. But is this really the reason why?
yeah, I think I have more of the genetics of my dad, but I don't think it's the genetics. I think it's number one, 47 years of training, consistent training. That's obviously a big part of it. And then the other thing is that like I said, when I train heavy. The way I look at it, Ralph, is that when you get older, your body's going to give up muscle tissue. It's going to lose muscle tissue naturally, especially if you don't weight train at all. You're going
Mhm.
to lose lots of muscle as you get older. That's what happens when we get older. So if you want to maintain that muscle or even build more muscle, you've got to really fight for it. And the way you fight for it is you have to push it and you have to train hard and train heavy. And I hear it all the time when I post videos and people will say, you shouldn't go heavy when you get older, you're going to get hurt. But I make sure that I'm safe. I've been training long enough that I know what I can handle and what I can't. And I always make sure I'm warmed up enough. And if I do feel anything like pull or I'll just stay away from it. No doubt about it. I'm not going to be an idiot and do this till I hurt myself. But as long as it's safe, I go as heavy as I can. And when I say heavy, I mean a weight that allows me to do 6 to 10 repetitions on average. And sometimes I don't even go as heavy as six, maybe just 8 reps. But I will push the weight and I won't be afraid to not go heavy. You know what I mean? And I'll push it and go heavy. I almost feel like sometimes like I train like I'm 25, you know.
Fantastic.
But I
Yeah,
think that's
I
what
see these
really
guys I see these guys in the gym, John. These young guys, they're not training heavy at 25 years old.
they're not.
They're
No,
just
you're right. You're
they're
right.
doing a ton of reps, a ton of sets. They're checking their phone between
Checking
sets,
their
and
phone, right?
they're not really in concentration like we used to be. And
Right.
I always the thing was you always needed a spotter to do certain things, and I mostly trained by myself. Have you trained by yourself for most of your career, or do you always have that partner?
I always like to have a partner, but sometimes you don't have one. So I can train by myself if I don't have anybody there, but I just like the camaraderie, and I think it just gives you a better workout. And then he goes and you go, and it's, and if you do need the spot, you have somebody there. So I've always preferred having a partner.
What are your mainstays as far as these exercises that are tried and true that you won't skip?
Well, like with chest, I'll always do a flat bench or dumbbell press. And I usually stick with barbells and dumbbells for the most part. And then with the incline, same thing. I'll do incline dumbbells or barbell press. And then I always do flies, dumbbell flies, whether it's incline or flat. And then, like I said, I'll do the pullovers. With legs, I'll usually do leg curls and then some kind of stiff-legged deadlift with either dumbbells or a barbell. And then I'll do leg press and squats and then sometimes hack squats. And then I added the second leg workout where I was really focusing more on the glutes as well. So I was doing walking lunges and doing a different variation of leg press on that one. And then shoulders, I'll always do like some kind of overhead press, whether it's a barbell press or a dumbbell press or even the Arnold press. And then I'll always do side laterals for the side delts, rear laterals for the rear delts. And I'll usually do the dumbbells on those too, where I'm bending over doing the rear laterals and then shrugs. And then back, I'll always do either pull downs or chin ups for the width. And then for the rowing exercises, I'll either do barbell rows, dumbbell rows, or T-bar rows. Again, mostly barbells and dumbbells. I don't do deadlifts anymore because it just puts too much strain on the lower back. But I will do like hyperextensions for the lower back. And then like with the arms, I'll just stick like dumbbell curls, barbell curls, close grip bench presses, dips, and then extensions for the triceps, seated extensions or, lying tricep extensions, the skull crushers. And then calves, I always do donkey calf raises, like we used to do back in the day.
Sure, sure.
That's why I need a partner for those.
You got to
And
have somebody on the back there. Yeah.
yeah, and we get some looks for that one. I'll tell you, nobody does that anymore.
There's not one, I haven't seen that in years, to be honest. I have to go to your
Yeah.
gym because I want to see guys actually do those exercises. I always wanted to train calves in that way. There's never really, it's not feasible because there's nobody around. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the seated calf never did it for me. Do you use that seated calf very often? You said you did.
Yeah. I use that in standing calves and then the leg press calf raises too.
And the calves, do you train your calves more often than other body parts or the same?
Yeah. Always twice a week.
Twice a week. And the other body parts, how often per week would you say it pans out to?
It was always like once a week, but I did add a second leg workout, which I've been doing now for probably over the last year, not just for this contest. And then I add a second chest and tricep workout that I do after my back workout. But it's short. It's only like 2 exercises, 3 sets each, and it's more moderate weight, like 8 to 10 reps, just to get like a pump and train those muscles again. I read a research study from some exercise scientists, and he said the more often you can train a muscle, as long as it's recuperated, the better you will grow it and get it stronger. So I was thinking about that. I'm like, wow, I've been training each muscle group just once a week for the longest time. Why don't I see if I can push it a little harder and add that second workout? So I started doing it with legs. So I'll do my heavy leg workout probably like on Tuesday. And then on Saturday, which is 4 days later, I'll add a second pump leg workout where it's more like supersets and just going more for a pump, like 12 reps, 15 reps, but still really working the muscle. And then 3 days after that, I'll do them again with the heavy workout. And I do the same thing with chest and triceps, where I'll do like the second workout like 4 days after the heavy workout and then 3 days before the next workout.
There's so many things to find out as you go. I mean, here you've been doing this for what, over 4 decades, well, actually 5 decades almost.
Almost,
And
yeah.
isn't that something when you look back and you say, well, back then we just threw the weights around, heavier the better. But
Right.
you find out all these little intricacies that you didn't
Yeah.
really realize what it takes to really build a prize-winning physique, or even a physique that you could be proud of walking around. It's not easy to maintain. It really isn't.
Oh, it isn't.
It has to
No.
be something that either you have that motivation or you don't. Where do you get the motivation aside from this contest that you weren't going to enter in the first place?
Mhm.
I know you're posing for pictures. That's what you were training for. But where's the motivation come from at this stage in your life?
I think it's more internal, really. It's not really competitions like it used to be when I was younger. Um, it's just I really like the working out. I love training. And like I said, I set up my workouts on this 6 week cycle. So I always have something to look forward to when I go to the gym. I know exactly like what weight I'm going to use, what reps I'm going to do. So it's not like I'm just going to go to the gym and try to train hard or just try to get a workout in. It's much more specific and it's more scheduled than that. But I also just like seeing how good I can look at this age, and I'm not a big believer in subscribing to how old I am. I don't identify as my age, I don't even talk about it. I never think about it. When I go to the gym, I don't think, yeah, I look pretty good for my age, or I train pretty hard for my age. I just go and train hard and I just want to look good. Like when I was training for this contest, I was like, I want to look better than I did 30 years ago, which probably is not going to happen realistically, but that was the mindset. So I don't subscribe to any kind of limitations because I'm older. I just want to be like the best I can be, period. And, I know that there's a limit to all this. We're all going to get older one day, and then there's going to be maybe a time when I won't even be able to train anymore. So I want to do it, everything I can do now while I still can do it. And I want to look as good as I can now while I still can because maybe it's not going to be possible in another couple decades.
How about food? How much food did you consume during this whole thing? And how did the food work? I know about carbs and the other, but what's your basic protein source or some of the protein sources, for instance?
Protein. I usually eat like 6 meals a day, so my protein comes from eggs and egg whites. I'll have a protein drink during the day, but then I'll have like either lean ground beef or lean ground turkey, extra lean ground turkey, chicken, and then salmon. I would say those are all my big protein sources. Sometimes tuna fish as well.
Do you worry about the source? In other words, do you go for grass-fed beef and organic chicken, or is that a priority?
Yeah, I get organic meats and I try to mix it up too. So I'm not eating chicken like 6 times a day. I try to have every meal is like a different protein source, and I'll even switch it from day to day. Like one day I might have ground chicken and lean ground beef, and then the next day I might have chicken breast and salmon. And then the next day I might have extra lean ground turkey and, tuna fish or something like that, So I'm constantly like switching it up, usually like every 3 days is like a different protein source.
Aside from the egg yolks and the salmon, what are your fat sources? Do you have avocados, nuts?
Usually I get enough fat just from the protein. Because I was limiting my fats to like 50 grams when I was dieting. Now I'm eating more that I'm not dieting. I'm eating more like 70 or 80 grams. But yeah, I usually get it just from the protein foods. The whole eggs help a lot, and the salmon and things like that. And then the beef or steak always has a good amount of fat in it too.
A lot of vegetables, fruit, or not so much?
Honestly, not so much. I'm not a big fan of vegetables, and I did eat some fruits, but mostly like blueberries or bananas. But I mixed it usually with the other carbs, so I wasn't eating it as a snack by itself because it's a simple sugar. So I would always mix the simple sugars with the complex carbs.
And you, I was going to say, now you use whey protein,
Yeah, yeah, usually whey protein.
and those you. I'm thinking about how that reacts. The milk products, they work well with you. You're fine with that.
Yeah, I'm still okay with milk products. Yeah.
Okay. And when you wake up in the morning, for instance, as the show is approaching, do you immediately go to the bathroom and assess the whole thing in the mirror, or is it a gradual thing in the morning where you kind of work your way into it, or is it an immediate assessment?
No, usually in the morning I just want to eat breakfast.
And you
But
never,
I will
because
look
I
like I
know
was.
a lot of these guys can't wait. As soon as they wake up in the morning, God forbid they look a little bit
Yeah,
depleted,
right.
because you look a little different at different times of the day, and people get
Yeah.
psyched. They get psyched out all the time, and well, that's interesting because I don't picture you as a guy who's overly vain, with mirrors around the house.
No.
But it's that type of a sport where you have to actually visually assess everything, yourself. Do you find yourself doing that, from all different angles for yourself without the coach?
Oh yeah. I mean, as the contest got closer, for sure, I was posing a lot in the gym, especially like that last month. Just, so you can assess yourself and see, how you're looking from different angles, like you said, and the different poses. I mean, you have to do that. That's all part of, competing. Because if you're not ready to, when you do that, you got to know which angles you look at good at and like which poses look good. When I was picking out my routine, I had to pick out probably like 12 poses, but they all were like really good poses. You don't want to pick out a pose that's, not as good or even not a killer. You want all good poses. So yeah, I was posing a lot, but that was, I would say, probably only the last month. Not a lot before that. Before that, I was just concerned with getting the fat levels down to where I was really ripped. And then once I got to that rip condition, then I was posing a lot more because then I was trying to get ready for the contest and seeing how I was going to pose when I got on stage.
I saw Arnold in the city. He's doing a film, a Christmas. He's actually doing a
Oh yeah,
Christmas film now.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, and he's got the full white beard. He's got the
Yeah,
white
I
hair.
saw
He's
that.
walking around with a Christmas sweater,
Right.
and that's your idol. That was your guy.
Yeah.
And what do you think of what's happening with him as far as his again now he's got to be man he's close to 80 is he not or 75? What am I
Like
in the
77, I think.
77? And when you look at him and you say, "Well, I'm not that far off," I can say the same thing. And you said maybe, you never know how long this is gonna last.
Hmm.
I want to enjoy it now. I just wonder, do you still follow his career and watch what
Oh
he's
yeah.
doing or like the old days?
Yeah, I mean, he's not really making money movies anymore, but yeah, if he does a lot of podcasts, so I'll always listen to his podcast. He's always a great interview because, the one thing about Arnold, like when he does these interviews, which amazes me, he remembers so much.
Yeah,
He's
he's
got
he's
all the
like a
detail. He'll
machine.
remember stories from the 60s. He's got the detail, the date, the person. It's crazy, because I do a lot of interviews on my bodybuilding legends, and some of these guys can't even remember what contest they won, but Arnold remembers everything.
That's why he was great. He
Yeah.
he he knows whose ass he kicked. That's really the truth.
Right. Right.
And and that's about competition. Now, when you go up there, you step out there and you see your competitors, is it about you or do you have an eye for everybody? I'm gonna, knock this guy off. Oh, this guy looks pretty good. Oh, that guy's no problem. Is that what's running through your head, or is it just competing within yourself?
Well, when I was signing up the day before when I was registering, I only registered for the over 60, but sometimes at these shows, there'll only be one or two guys in the over 60. So I was thinking about doing another class if it was only going to be me and one other guy. So then I found out there was 8 guys in the class. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just stick with this. I haven't been on stage for eight years, so I'll just stay with the one class. But then I wish I would have done like the over 50 or even the open. I wanted to see, I would have been interesting to see how I would have did in the open. So maybe if I do another show, I'll do that again. I'll expand it a little bit more. But I wasn't really looking at anybody else, not really. I mean, kind of a little bit backstage, but then we were all back there. So I was like, wow, that guy looks pretty good. Oh, he's in the open. He's only like 30 years old.
Yeah, right,
So yeah,
right.
I had to look at the guys that were in my class.
Yeah, 30 is a far cry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I saw you with Samir on the other show that you do, what is that again? I'm sorry. The Bodybuilding Legends I watch all the time. The other one I see sometimes. Muscle
Muscle,
Maturity.
muscle maturity. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard Samir giving you all the credit, all the credit in the world, which he should. And when you
Yeah,
when you
that
get
was
the
nice.
compliments from Samir, who's I
I
think
love
I
it.
think Samir Banut, folks, he's a bodybuilder. Those who don't know, he's Mr. Olympia 1983, I think.
Yep.
He's when he's complimenting you and he's talking about how great you look, you have to think to yourself, this guy knows because he knows his bodybuilding inside
Yeah.
and out. And when
Yeah.
he sees you as one of the best, you have to feel honored.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Whenever you get a compliment from somebody like with a legend like Samir or any of those guys, Lee Haney or Rich Gaspari said some nice things. So that's always great to hear, when you get compliment. And Lou Ferrigno gave me a compliment on Facebook. So
Wow, wow, because Lou, and here's the thing with Lou. Now you can see that he's not trained. I think he's training, but not like he used to. Of course, he can't be, but he's a guy who is very interesting because he's so huge, and
hmm
you're a guy who's 5'9", 5'8".
5'8", yeah.
You think it's much more difficult for a guy of that height to really appear, sort of proportional on stage as opposed to somebody like yourself?
Yeah, that's what made Lou such a great bodybuilder, because he was the biggest guy by far. I mean, 6'5". There was nobody 6'5" back then who was competing. So he was really a monster. And he did have the proportions. He had the legs, that allowed him to win the Mr. Universe twice. And then he got second to Arnold at the Olympia the first year he did it. So, and he was really good at a young age too. So yeah, he did a fantastic job filling out his big frame, because that's not easy. A lot of tall guys don't make it in bodybuilding. Most guys are medium height, 5'8", 5'9".
The best aspect of bodybuilding we've gone over. What's the worst about the sport in your opinion right now? What is the thing that turns people that turns you off the most about how it is today?
The current bodybuilding scene, you mean?
Yeah, just the guys that are competing that really, and we've talked about it before. I don't want to bring up the same topic, but it's very
Yeah.
important for the folks to understand how it's evolved. Some people say devolved. They're overly. I'll give you my opinion first, and then you tell
Okay.
me your opinion matters more. But they're overly. They're putting too many pounds on the
Yeah,
frame that they actually own. There's only so far you can go.
I agree.
I don't think they understand that they've hit the pinnacle as is, and all you need is refinement. You don't need to put another 25 pounds on. Don't you agree?
Exactly. I agree totally with that. Yeah. Because I think once you start putting that much muscle on, you lose the proportions and you lose the symmetry. And I think they measure progress as being bigger, 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 and adding more weight and getting more size. And it's not that simple. It's bodybuilding is more of a artistic sport. And when you look at artistic, anything artistic, there's an aesthetic quality to it. And when you start putting too much size on a physique, on a frame, especially some of these guys aren't even that tall. They're like 5'6" and they're
Yeah.
super massive. Then you start to lose the aesthetics and you start to lose the proportions. And the other thing would be the posing. I've been talking about this for like the last 20 years. The posing just isn't where it should be, because they're not presenting the physique as a work of art. And that's what bodybuilding is supposed to be. It's developing your physique as a work of art and then presenting it as a work of art. And that's what bodybuilding competition is just presenting the physique. If you think about it, Ralph, I've said this before on my show, bodybuilding is unique because it's the only sport where what you do to prepare for the contest is completely different than what you do at the contest. And at the contest, all you're doing is presenting what you've already developed. So bodybuilders are athletes. I think they are. Some people say, oh, bodybuilders aren't, they say bodybuilding shows aren't, it's not a sport. But
Mhm.
the bodybuilders are athletes because they're training. They're training like athletes, but they don't train like athletes, or they don't present themselves as athletes at the contest. All they're doing at the contest is showing what they did to prepare for the show. But then you have to present that physique. It's like unveiling a painting at an art show. That's what you're doing at a contest. You're unveiling your painting. You worked on the painting and now you're unveiling it and you're showing it to everybody. And that's what you're doing at a contest. You're just showing it to people. So it's super important that you do the posing correctly and you present your physique in an artistic fashion. That means not only doing the poses that look best on your physique, but doing them in an artistic way, with the right transitions and doing it to the music and doing it in a dramatic fashion. And that's what you want to do when you get up on stage. You want to present your physique in a dramatic, artistic fashion. And no, very few people work on that at all. They hardly even, I don't think they even look like, they really don't look like they really work on their posing at all, let alone work on it to the point where it's really dramatic and artistic.
There's less emphasis than ever before on the
Yeah.
artistic quality of the presentation. There's no doubt about that. I think it's
Yeah,
a
the only
beautiful,
thing I
in
see
two
it,
cents, it's a beautiful sport.
yeah, the only area I see it getting better is in classic physique. And those guys, especially the pros, seem like they're really working on it. They have good routines to good music. There's quite a few of those guys. I was at the Olympia last year, and there was quite a few of those guys who did a fantastic job with their posing. So I think they're recognizing it, and maybe they're seeing their competition is doing it, so they know they have to do it. So I hope that keeps growing on that end. I just wish it would translate into the open bodybuilding too.
Those guys are incredible. To me, they look far better than the other guys. Those guys are incredible.
Yeah, I'm more excited about that part of the sport too than the open. you know, the Open gets all the fanfare, and that's what everybody talks about. But I think the classic physiques, those guys are incredible, and I think there's a lot of good young guys coming up, and hopefully that'll keep it growing and growing and getting better.
What's the purse for the Olympia these days?
It was 600,000 for
That's a good
first
chunk.
place.
That's a good chunk of change.
Yeah. And the Arnold that's coming up in a month is going to be 400 or no 500,000.
Do you attend these shows?
Yeah, I went to the Olympia and I'm planning on going to the Arnold too. Yeah.
How is the Arnold? How's that experience?
Oh, it's great. The expo is huge, the biggest expo, you know, bigger than the Olympia. And the competition's always good. And just having Arnold there is always different. You know, it's much different than the Olympia, and it lends a special air to it, I think, you know, when he's there. Because he's at the show presenting the overall trophies, and then he does a seminar on Sunday too. That's always really fun to see.
Do you get to have any personal time with Arnold? Do you get to talk to him personally?
No, no, I've never really met him. I mean, I have met him, but he doesn't know, I don't think, who I am. And he's really hard to get a hold to get near, you know, at the contest. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it has to be arranged for all the big sponsors all have meetings with him, I guess, you know, and they get a chance to talk to him. But
What are some of the great personalities through the years? Not to put anybody else down as secondary, but what are the great that you've met and you've said, man, that guy's are. I know in your bodybuilding legends, you meet these guys from the past and they end up being just fantastic guys. That
yeah,
you know, I watch that show and I say, oh man, I remember seeing pictures of that guy in maybe 1975 in this magazine, and here he is now and he's
yeah,
still got a lot of pizzazz and a lot of motivation. You know, what are some
yeah.
of the guys that really left an impression on you?
Well, Sergio Oliva, he was a real personality and incredible physique too, but he had his own charisma and his own personality for sure. And
Did you know him well?
I saw him quite often in Chicago, you know, because he would come to the shows. Um, Especially back in the 80s, he was coming to a lot of shows. And I saw him guest pose actually once. The first contest I ever went to, I think he guest posed. So yeah, he was definitely a personality. Samir's got a great personality too.
He's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, and Lee Haney's a great guy. Always, you know, always smiling, always really nice to everybody. So is Jay Cutler. He's another really super nice guy. It's great when these guys reach a certain level and then they never look down at anyone. You know, they're so accessible to everybody. So yeah, those are great guys.
And the social media aspect that we discussed a couple of months ago is very interesting. You have stars out there that
Yeah,
have never really, you know, I'm not, there's no put down here. It's just about all they really do care about. They're not about to compete in any big time shows. They just want to look good for their channel or for their
mhm.
YouTube, you know, whatever it is. There are some impressive characters out there that I look at, I say, These guys are unbelievable at a very young age."
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do you chalk that up to?
It's a whole different part of the sport now, you know, because like you said, a lot of these guys never even compete because they don't have to compete. I mean, they just, you know, but it's interesting because like when I was younger, there was a lot of great bodybuilders that nobody ever saw because they never made it into the magazines. And the only way you could ever be known was to make it into the magazines. And I remember when I was young, in my teenage, but especially like even in my 20s, when I was competing in the open division, that's all I wanted was I want to get in a magazine. I want to get in a
Mhm.
magazine. I never could get in a magazine, you know. And that's where that when you make a magazine, you made it, you know. And now people don't have to do that anymore. There are no magazines first of all, but now people don't have to wait for somebody to put their picture in a magazine. They can just do it on their own. They can just create their own channel. And if they have something that's interesting or they have a physique that's good enough, then people will flock to it, you know. And some of these people have millions of followers and they've never even competed in a show and they probably never will because they don't need to. You know, they've got their own following. So it's just a different world now.
And they're right on those hardcore drugs right away. They want things that take, you said, you refinement. It took you, I asked you about the mass that you able to hold on to. This is 50 years almost, folks, of hard
Yeah.
training, heavy training, as you heard.
Yeah.
You know, they want that in, you know, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's just the
Yeah.
nature of things these days.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, I sound like an old man, but it's so true because Oh, there's a guy and I can't remember his name. Very impressive guy. Very good looking guy, but he's actually about he's got to be about 56, 57. And what good is it if I can't think of his name? But he's got the long hair. Okay, I thought you came up with it, but a fantastic guy that he is so popular, and I got to look that up. Let me let me ask you one more before we say goodbye. In the future, uh, are you gonna regroup and now that you've had a taste for what it feels like again? Are you going to continue? Are you going to have another hiatus, or what's happening in John Hansen's career?
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing another one in July, actually. So that's coming up quick. And I'm staying kind of on the diet. I'm watching my macros, which I never did before, in between competitions. And I'm staying, like probably only 10 or 12 pounds over what I was competing at. And training hard, gradually increasing the intensity of the training. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. As long as everything goes well and I stay healthy, I might do another show in July. I'd like to maybe do it for 2 more years and just see how far I can push my physique and how good I can look just with training hard and eating good and eating on a structured eating plan.
You have a lot of clients these days?
It's building up, but now that I've gotten in great shape, I'm definitely going to use that to market, my services and show people what's possible at this age. I got a lot of photos done and got those videos taken that I was dieting for originally, and then I could use the contest pics as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to push that a little harder this year.
I know you don't like to emphasize the age, but there's a big market 60 plus.
Yeah, yeah, 50,
You know,
60. Yeah.
once you say and you show this incredible body and you say, "Oh, this guy can't be," and you say, "Yeah, I'm 60, 61." What are you 61?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm 61. They're shocked by that because the average 61-year-old guy is in
Yeah.
America in 2025. It's a sad, sad statement
Yeah.
on where we
Yeah.
are right now. It really
Yeah.
is. Well, hey John, it's been I want to keep it under an hour so I get this on the radio. That's why I'm cutting it
Okay.
shorter than I want to cut it. But it's really been great talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Ralph. It's always good talking to you. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, you and again, bodybuilding legends. Go to see that because if you're really a hardcore fan, even a casual fan, it's a fantastic a place to go to see all the greats and John,
Yeah.
of course. And the other one is Muscle Maturity. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's the one I do with Samir on the Old School Labs podcast. And then of course John Hansen Fitness is my fitness site if anybody's looking for any workout or diet programs, any personalized instruction.
And who's the kid that does the Muscle Maturity with you, the young guy?
Um,
You had there was Samir, yourself, and
yeah, Marcus
yeah.
Guerrero.
How
He works for
what part does he play in that?
Well, he works for Old School Labs. So
Oh, okay.
we used to do it with another guy, Nick Trigili, and then Nick wasn't able to get on YouTube. He got kicked off of YouTube for some reason. So
Uh-oh.
in order to have it on YouTube, we had to just me and Samir were doing it, and I thought it'd be good if we had a third person. So we got someone from Old School Labs in there too.
All right, John. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ralph. Take care.
Okay, take it easy.
All right, you too.